Hey, how's it going? September 24th, 2021, and Merry Christmas! The Chinese Santa Claus has come along bestowing more gifts to the more experienced traders, while the Grinch has come along behind and eaten all the newbie cookies. This is nothing new, guys. These FUD things always come in threes. We had the Evergrande thing, and then the SEC, and then, of course, wow, you would think by now that people would wake up to the China regurgitated and recycled news, but no, we never learned. Too many newbies coming in. So, what are we going to cover today? Well, first of all, welcome to Crypto Calypto, home of no-nonsense truth, and today we're going to cover the real reason this crash started, and we're now in the third and final FUD dip, in my opinion. This is the retail shakeout before the spring, which will probably happen in the next 10 days, if not sooner, on our way to what I feel will be in the 80s next month. So stick around for that, and I'll explain why and how. We're going to cover the price action, the news. We'll cover my chart update, my market analysis approach, and let's bang right into this. Current price action, Bitcoin down 5% at time of recording at 41.8, and that's almost 12% down for the week. Bitcoin is the store of value, and look, that's not going anywhere. Ethereum, well, this one's a little bit temperamental for the medium term, but this is still a long-term buy now, hold, because it's a safe haven for hedge money, for the new institutional sideline money, and that'll be sideline only until the SEC comes up with regulations, which they're purposely delaying for that very reason. It's a little complicated, but so we're at 28.60 at time of recording for Ethereum, down 8%, 17.5 for the week. Cardano, interesting price movement on that one. Take a look at Cardano. One of the very smart plays is when we get a crash, especially when it's FUD related like this, pay attention to what rebounds off the first bottom the quickest. Well, in this case, take a look at Bitcoin. Now take a look at Cardano. See the difference? Well, if you want to know where the strength buys are, that should be a clear sign. So Cardano has some big news coming up. That's going to be the big play for top 5, in my opinion, in the immediate future. And XRP, of course, 92 cents at time of recording. They're down 7%, 13% for the week. Solana, I actually stacked that at the bottom this morning because that's a favorite retail play. That'll be a medium trade. That's at 136, down 2% for the week. And Polkadot's another good play. I also picked up Cody this morning for the first time ever, and that'll be a short-term trade. Let's move on. Weak hands are typically trading emotionally, and that's a choice to remain uninformed. Honestly, I became a little skewed last week. You may remember I said although my chart is calling for a crash, I didn't think the S.C.U.M would get their bottom. And who are the S.C.U.M? And not only did they hit their planned target, moreover, they took a second helping of gulping up the minnows, courtesy of over-leveraged retail. Top channels are calling this a black swan event, but was it really? Not to me, because to me it wasn't unanticipated, and that's the very definition of a black swan event. So let's move away from pricing and macro out a bit. Pricing is always along for the ride, so it's more important to understand the ride. And that segues to our new segment, and first up is the big event, Evergrande. This is so obvious to me, and I hope as this channel begins to grow, you'll be able to gain that macro understanding as well. The best way you can make that happen is to give the middle finger to the algorithm gods as you rested on that like button, subscribe so others may follow along, and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss out. So, Evergrande. You've heard another possible Lehman catalyst towards a cascading crash like 2008, and Tether holding Evergrande debt. Neither is directly true. What's the real story? Well, this gets complicated, so hold on to your seats. The real story is Xi Jinping's edict to return to traditional social communism, and Evergrande is one of very many casualties in his quest. So the company CEO is a classic rags to riches story who was coaxed along by the CCP for rapid expansion in China's economic expansion zones. I want to sidebar here, speaking about China. This is important to understand from an extreme macro perspective. Everything leads to China. Back in the 70s, all right, way back in the 70s, I'm dating myself. I was in high school. My two best buddies were farm guys. Their whole families had been in farming for generations. My best friend's dad took us aside after he explained to us he wouldn't be farming for a couple years because the government was literally subsidizing him not to farm. This was after the gold standard thing in the 70s from the Bretton Woods decisions and the reaction to that, and this whole sellout of America, which is where this all began. Government was paying the farmers not to farm. Why? That was the great migration of finances and the sellout of America. That's where it all started. Now, here's what's profound. His dad told us, watch China. They're going to take over the world. Now, this is in the 70s. I didn't pay any attention to it. Hey, I was too busy chasing pretty girls and driving fancy cars, or maybe that's the other way around. But am I paying attention now? Well, of course, I have been for a couple decades now, but back then I had no clue what he was referring to, and I thought he was out to lunch. Well, he proved to be profoundly wise in his... As all roads led to Rome, all roads in the crypto financial world leads to China. Look, the way the system works is you got to pay attention, people. Laptop, Hunter, kickbacks, China, sellout. Everything leads to China, and it's the only country that has crossover to the S.C.U.M, the World Councils, and World Central Banks. Everything you see in the lamestream news is smoke and mirrors. It's all a dog and pony show. You have to dig behind the news and find out what's really going on. I also want to dispel a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes and horribly wrong perceptions of the Chinese people, who are just absolutely wonderful. I've spent much time in China, along the Vietnam border, in the hills and the remote villages, in the big cities. Shenzhen's a favorite of mine. My wife is from Nanning. I obviously have family there. I have friends there. I know how things work. Now, 20, 30, 50 years ago, the following was true. Sweatshops. The one-child policy. And you need a hard permit to, depending on your status, as to where you can travel. None of that's true now. This is old news that's still being circulated, but it is not true. All right, the reality is, and all you have to do is go over there and spend some time, as I have, the Chinese citizens are living far better than we are, a much higher quality of life. Sweatshops are, percentage-wise, no more than they are in the United States. It still exists, of course, but that has decreased dramatically. The pace at which the Chinese economy has exploded is beyond imagination. I mean, you've got, like Shenzhen, for example, which used to be, and here's some pictures. Shenzhen used to be just 20, 25 years ago, just a sleepy fishing city, really, with not much of a population. Look at what it is today. I mean, it's modern, it's clean. Single girls can walk around at 2 a.m. with no problems. It's just an amazing place. And there's many cities like that in China. The people are wonderful. They'll help you out. I mean, I could give you dozens of examples of people spontaneously helping. Standing in line at a movie theater, people just giving you free tickets because they had a couple extra. I mean, people helping me get a bribe for a government official. So I could get some paperwork I needed. And that is how it operates over there. So the Chinese people are just wonderful, and the stereotypes are wrong. You don't need the permits anymore to travel. The one-child rule has been gone for a while now. In fact, it's just the opposite. They see that they're having a problem with younger people now having to play catch-up, so there's incentives to have three children. So they want more children at this point. So I just had to put that out there. So tying into the topic of the expansion economic zones and how Evergrande was tied into that, that's just worldwide money floating over there, just another financial road to China. So back on topic, with money flowing in literally faster than they could spend it, in addition to acquiring many other large corporate franchises, Evergrande accepted deposits for new apartments that now will strand the investments of over, ready for this, 1.5 million individual investors. And the builds on those homes hasn't even started. That's crazy. Now enter the psychosis of Xi Jinping, who had an epiphany, evidently, that his power and control was quickly slipping away by the heavy acceleration of Western culture and money. So under the banner of providing equality and many other things I don't have time to discuss, he issued through the state-owned media a document, which is really a mandate for revolutionary big changes. That's literally what the title is. If you translated it from the Chinese, revolutionary big changes. I don't know if you noticed, but in just the last few months, there have been massive changes in China already. Big name celebrities have been silenced. English centers and apps have been closed. The owner of Alibaba disappeared. And Evergrande is simply caught up in this change. That's the real story. And will it be bailed out? Likely, although Xi Jinping does not want to bail it out because that company accelerated with foreign investments against the wishes of Xi Jinping. He doesn't like that type of Western investment. So he may let it fail out of spite, but what he will do is rescue the industry if it comes to that. He's not going to let the economy fail. So, I mean, that's just not going to happen. So he could let it fail so the CCP can break it up and control it. That's possible. The bottom line is this is not going to take down the economy. They will bail it out if it starts to cascade. If not, it has the Trojan horse advantages of pressuring the U.S. economy at the expense of enough Chinese investors willing to take it on the chin for the home country. Now, why this gets complicated is more of a soap opera story of how the CCP operates. And I don't have time to explain, but basically it's a system of bribes, kickbacks, Ponzi schemes, rug pulls, and this is rampant in China. I mean, I can attest to this personally. I had to bribe a couple of officials to get visa documents for my wife. And just ask the Chinese investigator who tried to whistleblow how he likes his jail cell time. The CCP uses eager CEOs, and in this case, I think unwittingly, to register companies where they can structure it as a Trojan horse for outside easy money, cook the books, short the stock, then spread FUD, and rug pull. And this, of course, all ties into my chart and the S.C.U.M plan, which is all coordinated FUD, this double and now triple dip as of today with the recycled China banning crypto news. And by the way, I always follow up with this stuff, and I make calls to China, or I have my wife, who's from China, check out the local news from the state, not the news that we hear, the real news that the Chinese citizens listen to. And there's nothing new here. All the Chinese people got was, hey, just a reminder that you shouldn't be in the crypto world, and it is illegal for businesses to make any transactions with you. Well, look, Chinese people, they're extremely similar to us. Everything's the same over there, except they're living better than us right now. But that's going to change, unfortunately. So they're just over there raising families, buying the car, buying the condo or apartment because they are not allowed to own land over there. So they'll buy their place, and a good portion of them are buying second homes, Evergrande, because they have the money to do that. Do we? Not most of us. So they're living life, and are they going to stop trading crypto because the government puts this out? No. No, they jump on VPN and they do the same thing we do. So this is just coordinated FUD once again, and the chart shows that. So that's a long explanation, but actually just scratching the surface. It's always important to zoom out to the fullest extent possible. A couple other news stories I'd quickly like to allude to, then we'll move on. We have the SEC finally scared enough to ramp up the regulation machine, and of course, that's the marching orders from central and world banks. The S.C.U.M may use this as FUD for a triple dip for shorts before we rally, but the good news is we will ultimately shake this off, no doubt in my mind. Finally, Cardano has its summit tomorrow and are promising earth-shattering announcements. Although I am a huge believer and holder of ADA, I think the significance of those announcements will be wrongly perceived less significant than they really are by leveraged retail wanting to hear big-name partnerships like Amazon or Tesla. Nonetheless, as the announced partnerships execute, we will begin to see a massive rise in ADA price relative to other top 5 crypto. Let's take a look at my chart. As you can see, we continue to be 100% accurate for our market direction and virtually spot on for pricing and exact dates. As I mentioned last week, these lines are very macro and linear for trend tops and bottoms, so I've added more detail as to where I think we're headed. Just keep in mind, although I am 100% confident in the macro chart direction, the specific weekly movement is intuition and connecting the metrics of various tools. But I do have perhaps, I'd say 90% confident to be within 10% of these price movements. As you can see, we are amazingly close to plan. We did dip below 43 briefly, but that was just an extra gulp of minnows from over-leveraged retail for the S.C.U.M, and quite honestly, general whales and even retail getting in on the short selling. And here is that candle in the Bitcoin chart. When did this happen exactly? 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and guess where the markets are getting heated up at 10 p.m. our time? Ni hao. That's hello in Chinese. Yes, China. Everything points back to China, and I have an exhaustive amount of info on this for our future discussion. So how this works is the S.C.U.M will have sophisticated algorithms and data extrapolation easily predict TA models, then give marching orders to their media FUD peons. Simultaneously, top YouTube channels will be supporting the impending doom with wrong analysis because the system of S.C.U.M is designed to fool TA. They execute the drop, and you know the drill. Weekends panic sell and fill the whale and S.C.U.M tills even more. And this is rarely ever happening in one dip. There's usually a tried and true method of fooling investors with second and third dips. So how much money do these S.C.U.M need anyway, you may ask? Well, it's not about the money. It's about asset accumulation for power and control. My last topic, and we're running out of time, so I'll just give a quick overview and more detail at a later date. The last topic comes from several peeps asking about my analysis and predictive models. This is a very involved process, a long story and very complex. I can't get into the exact modeling because it's somewhat proprietary, not because I want to keep it to myself, but because I would lose a couple key contacts if I revealed too much. And I've already lost 2 key contacts in China because of the crackdown I discussed earlier. But I can tell you this, take a top-down approach. The daily price of any crypto in top 5 has very little to do with anything micro and everything macro. And when I say macro, I'm not referring to zooming out from daily to yearly pricing. I'm talking about zooming way out to understand to the fullest extent possible the S.C.U.M geopolitical landscapes, political posturing, and other sweeping macros, because ultimately that trickles down through the Ponzi scheme and eventually ends up as manipulating pricing trends. Now, I have a distinct advantage because of my connections, which are extensive, but the more you can educate yourself with big picture thinking, the more astute you will become at connecting dots to predictive metrics. That's all we have time for today. If I get enough interest to bring you down that rabbit hole, perhaps I'll dedicate a video exclusively to that topic. Let's wrap up. We talked about the reason for the current price action and trends, how the Evergrande event is not as it appears and why it happened. We touched on the SEC meddling and the exciting Cardano news. My chart was looked at, which is becoming even more impressive. And lastly, I gave a little tease as to big picture thinking. That's it for this time, guys. So hit the like, subscribe, share, all of that jazz. So that's it for today. Take care, guys.